Hi all. Right, getting the side sills ready for tooling stage. We needed some extra material to make the larger returns for the tooling itself. As you can see where the black line is there, that's the actual final cut piece that we need for the car itself. So all this grey you see here, and all here, and all here, basically all of this is really just been added purely for tooling. There is a kind of an extended slot in this piece here because it goes over one of the tubes. It's on the side here. You fill that in basically, so we've got the tooling as a more of a simple shape, and then once we've done the tooling, we'll make the first part, we'll trim the part so it's like that and in the areas, make sure everything's okay in the car, and then we'll put the part back into the tooling, and then I'll scribe a line around it. So basically when the next part is made, that scribed line will end up being on here, so I really don't have to think twice about how to trim the second part. But for the first one we need these larger flanges. Now, just doing the bottom flange here at the moment. Obviously this is like equates to the side splitters, so they're just basically dead stone flat, so we're just doing it off. In fact, all of these pieces here we've done off of aluminium. We just basically riveted aluminium sheets to the flat surfaces, because luckily most of it is flat. I had a little contour here, I just bent some alley plate to make that up. But yeah, now I've extended all the surfaces we want on here. It's a bit of a mess on the inside here, but realistically all this is just sacrificial. I went away from being tidy and just wanted to get it done. So those bent panels there, pretty much if you look here, to be honest, this surface here and the bottom surface for the side scoop itself will be the only surfaces that I end up actually using. We'll use a partial amount at the top here, but most of this is unrealistic to tool from, so that won't be used, that won't be used, and that won't be used in the final part. You'll end up cutting those off, and then we'll have a secondary part that will mount to the back that will basically tidy up that area. And obviously for the turbo car itself, we'll have a duct that'll come directly from there and force feed purely just the intercoolers. Intercooler air being the more important side of this at the moment. So that'll be a separate part, separate mould, separate piece of tooling that will then just bond into the eventual final side skirts. So yes, most of the detail sanding's done, most of the shapes are done. I've just basically got to fill in where the that side scoop is there, and just basically smooth it off to wherever else. But as you can see, basically the white panels in the white panels that's in there, neither of those will be useful on the final shape of the car, because basically they'll be ducted in. But you need to have a full return on that, so that you can make the tooling in one piece and it doesn't screw up. Anyway, so yes, we've done this one as well. This one's already done, the bottom and the top, but there is one small mod that we need to do. Instead of having this side panel come to here, it would normally have fitted with a plate here. We don't want that. You can see the plate that we've temporarily sort of just welded onto there, which was bolted onto here. You can almost see the shape of the diffuser there, so that straight edge there. On the final part we'll have fiberglass, and then it'll turn 90 degrees, basically go behind the wheel. So if we look from a sort of a plan view on the top there, the sill will come here, and then we'll just tuck behind the wheel roughly at about the same level as to where the diffuser is. So we'll have about an inch play between the wheel and the diffuser, but this will just duct around. We'll take this off because this is only ever going to be temporary, and then we'll do some nicer, just small sort of half-inch tubes with some plates here, just to bolt together, just to bolt that to there, and then we can use this the same plate that we're going to bolt the fiberglass to. We'll also bolt this, the diffuser to, so we'll make a kind of a dual mount. Mainly we want the airflow, say, from the intercooler to come around here. We are going to have an exit vent here as well to try and promote air and try and sort of drop the pressure behind the intercooler, but we'll see how effective that is. Similar to like a 962. Instead of just having this like 4 or 5 vents, we'll actually have an aperture hole that I'm trying to get down to it. But that's kind of a secondary mold and won't be on every car. So you can either have the option of a completely plain, no vents at all. You can have a slotted vent, or we'll have like a ducted vent for, I said, somebody wants an intercooler car. So yes, a lot of work gone onto the side sills. The outside surfaces aren't that far away. Maybe a few hours of just sanding and filling in any pinholes, and then we can gel coat. This is the first panel we've done this return edge to. We've got to do that one, but that one says still doing the lower added flange area for the tooling. Right. So unfortunately, or fortunately, if you like, hot temperatures, it's been a bit too warm. I had to get up right early in the morning on my days off. Yes, on my bloody days off, so that it's 22 degrees in the shop, enough that I can then spray gel coat on the panels. Now the front clip probably needs at least 1 or 2 more thin gel coats, and then that should be ready for its final sand and buff, ready for tooling. Now this one, the maximum I can get in my normal spray gun is about 0.7 of a litre. Any more than that, I'm just risking overflowing it while I'm spraying it. And that's about the maximum I can spray in, that's weird. That's about the maximum I can spray in 15 minutes, which is basically when the gel coat starts to go off. So that's the limiting factor. I can literally only just about got done a thin coat on the front of here. I didn't even manage to get the back end of the car done because I'd ran out of gel coat at that point. But I did learn from when I did this one, when I put 2 or 3 coats on to start off with, it still didn't fill off enough of the pinholes. So I purposely only did 1 coat to this, and due to temperatures, basically that's all I was going to get anyway. And I've basically then gone over with 220 and basically block sanded and de-aged where the contours would allow me to. And you can see now basically that's the 80 grit. That's the 80 grit lines that the sort of gel coat's filled in. I guide coated it with black, so basically all the black's gone. So all the guide coat's completely disappeared now, but it did show me that I still had pinholes everywhere. So you can see this is like a cellulose putty. It's just a 1-part filler, but it's only designed for very small holes. This is a lot thinner. It's actually, where have we gone? 3M Putty Mastic. That's the Canadian version of. But yes, so now basically we've sanded the 220 down to get rid of all those little things. You can still see a few minor little tiny little pin pricks of the guide coat, but that'll sand off with the next layer of gel. So you can still see some lines here. Say again, so those sanding lines could have gone down further, but to be honest, that's going to come out anyway. But yeah, so I've just puttied all the holes, all the pinholes, well, hopefully all the holes. Then I'll sand off the putty, and then we can blast this again with more gel coat. But unfortunately, even with that, actually purely ventilation just to help me stop me from overheating, it's just so damn hot. I was told by my fiberglass expert that I'm using as a database 80 Fahrenheit or roughly 26 degrees C. Anything more than that, he basically says he never bothers to even lay up gel coat, because it just goes off too quick, and then it'll start to peel if you're putting on something that's it's not good. So don't do it. So unfortunately, I'm kind of a little bit screwed by the weather at the moment. I don't have AC in the shop. A lovely heating system at the moment. My solar tubes are pumping it out at the moment. My heat dumps in overtime. Kind of useless heat at this point. But yeah, so AC in the shop. I never thought I'd have to worry about it, but to be honest, it's very tempting to put an AC in just in the paint shop, just a small, maybe like just like an 8,000 BTU AC unit, just to cool down the paint shop, just enough so I can bloody spray the gel coat, which is kind of annoying. It's kind of holding me back at the moment, but yeah, happy with sanding down the rear clip. There wasn't too many areas that I wasn't completely unhappy with the shape. When you block sand again, obviously you're always going to find those little lows, so I was quite happy that I didn't have too many that at least couldn't be sanded off. Didn't have to add any more filler to it. That's just good. You know, the putty's pretty thin stuff, so I'll just wet sand this off with 400, and this will come off pretty quickly. So yeah, we're getting close. So front clip's just a couple of coats, and realistically sand at the buff. That's, you know, still got quite a bit to do, and obviously the side sills not so much. We do have our dry shafts. They finally arrived from the dry shaft shop. Unfortunately, the guy in shipping only sent one, much to neither of us' amusement. They did very kindly though immediately send the second one once I'd flagged up the fact that I only sent one shaft. So it was sitting there. Just the guy in shipping only sent one, so we now have the two shafts. They are 1500 horsepower rated. That's what they're rated now. Somebody did point out the fact it wouldn't be more rated for torque, not necessarily horsepower. Horsepower doesn't break shafts. Torque does. Very good point. But to be honest, they're well in excess of 1100 foot-pounds, which is probably well in excess of what the gearbox is going to take. So realistically, I'll be limiting the torque at that point anyway. Yeah, Tilton flywheel, Tilton clutch. Keep meaning to order that damn thing, but at the moment it's just one thing I don't need right straight away, and it is stuff that they can make within 2 or 3 weeks, so it's not a big rush. So I've just held off for that for the moment, because that's about £3 that I could easily just leave to a later date. Starter motor, I do need to do the mods too, so I will have to get the starter motor and then start looking at a CAD drawing for the front cast plate to index the starter motor up slightly, or index the solenoid, sorry, slightly up. Yes, so there we go. Side tools getting there. It feels good to get well less and less to the fiberglass side of it, to at least get the bucks ready. Plugs, sorry, North American plugs. Anyway, there we go. That's the progress on this lot. Not much really happening on anything else. Just too damn hot to do anything. Anyway, enjoy the summer. See you later.